Hey, what's up guys? Matt Laidlaw here, coming to you from Laidlaw's Harley-Davidson. So, as I've said before, I'm going to start a new bike highlights series or playlist on this YouTube channel. And so this is one of our first ones we've done. This is Nick here, and he's brought us his FXR. And so we're going to do a rundown of it. This is a super nice FXR, and FXRs are really popular, really trending bike right now. So I thought it would be a perfect fit for a first bike for you. So let us run down the bike with you real quick, and Nick's going to talk to us a little bit about the bike.
So as Matt said, this is an 85 FXR. It's an FXRC, which is the FXR Custom. That denotes pretty much just the orange paint. It came to be known as the Candy Glide. In 85, it came with it was one of the first years without the shovel, with the Evo and the belt drive. It's been in my family since 85. It was bought up in Oakland, and it's been in my family ever since. And I think that's the overview of it. It's an 85 FXRC.
All right, cool. What color did you say this bike was?
I don't know the technical term of the color, but it's come to be known as the Candy Glide.
This is original paint?
This is the original paint. The FXRC only came in this orange, almost whiskey kind of color.
And the fairing here, obviously this wasn't stock.
No, stock it came with no fairing, and we've gone through a couple different fairings, windshields, and right now we have this one on.
Now, obviously this is a modern LED daymaker on this bike, and I know the electrical and stuff wasn't set up for this bike.
Yeah, so the whole bike was rewired to operate more like a modern, traditional style Harley, with the turn signals not having to be held. You just have to push them down, and of course it's got all the modern lighting as well. Replace the turn signals and daymaker. Those are the stock gauges. The earlier FXRs had the bar-mounted pod setup. Later on, they went to the tank-mounted gauges.
Now, as far as the motor, was there any motor work done on the bike or anything?
Yeah, so I guess a few years back, I guess maybe around a decade ago, it had heads, cam. It's got a Mikuni carb on it, thunder header, exhaust. So it's got all the stuff you need to make it breathe better.
And suspension?
So those are, I believe the original height for the FXRs when they first launched was around 13 and a half inches. So that's back up at the original ride height. They eventually lowered it because it wasn't selling well, because the traditional Harley guys wanted it lower. But that's a set of works shocks that have raised it back up to where it has some pretty good lean angle now.
I noticed you got a steering stabilizer on here.
Yeah, the steering damper helps because the original fork on this was actually 35 millimeter in 85, and then it was eventually bumped up to 39, and this has the upgraded 39 millimeter. But even then, it still has a little bit of a wobble, and even with a fork brace, so eventually steering dampener was added.
Now what about the wheels? These definitely aren't stock wheels.
No, those are some very light Suns rims, spoke wheels, and it's got the upgraded brakes to go along with them. So front end feel is a lot better now. A lot more confidence inspiring too when you get on the brakes.
So this is pretty much like a FXR. You got the benefits of the FXR frame and everything, but you have modern things like suspension and braking and everything.
Yeah, well, I guess the mindset is that this was one of the stiffer frames Harley ever really made, and it's easier to modify everything else than it is the frame, so you might as well start with what's hard to change and then change all the stuff that's a bit easier. It's easy to say that, but of course, as we said earlier, it's sort of been in the family forever, so sort of happened upon it.
A lot of people would argue still to this day that the FXR frame is the best frame that Harley-Davidson has ever produced.
Yeah, well, and I think the weight has a lot to do with it too. I mean, you get this side by side with a Sportster, and it's actually not much bigger, and the weight shows. It's only about 570 or 580 pounds, which means it's got, 50, 60 pounds less than a street bob, and then a stiffer frame and taller shocks, and you add all that up and it handles pretty remarkably well.
Very cool. All right, let's start this beast up. Alright, so I was allowed to take the bike out and do a test ride on it, which was pretty cool. This is a really fun bike to ride and kind of a nostalgic bike to ride, so I was really excited to have the opportunity to take this thing out. One of the things that the owner failed to mention was sometimes the fourth gear in the transmission, the gearbox, has a hard time engaging. So there's a couple times in the video here where the fourth gear didn't engage right away, so the revs went up a little bit. So the first thing you notice about this bike when you get on it is that it just sounds absolutely amazing. There's arguably no better engine sound in the entire world, in my opinion. And you get that because you got this Evo that's carbureted with the Thunderheader exhaust. It sounds amazing. So this is basically a Harley collector's dream bike right here. You've basically got one of the most iconic frames and engines that Harley's ever produced. The FXR frame, like I've already said a couple times, is arguably the best frame they've ever made. They actually stopped producing it because the manufacturing costs were too expensive. These bikes are very iconic because this is the bike that Harley-Davidson first produced when they bought the company back from AMF. So this is the bike, the FXR, that brought Harley-Davidson back from the really poor performing AMF days, and this really was what brought Harley back on the map and solidified them as a real solid American-made motorcycle. So this bike does a really good job at combining the nostalgia and the performance and everything from the FXR and the frame, but incorporating the new technology into it with everything that was done to the bike, such as the suspension, the electrical. The bike was completely rebuilt with all new gaskets and everything, and you got the lighting that's updated. So it's just a really good performing and riding bike as well. So the bike ran really, really well on the freeway. Plenty of giddy up. I had plenty of confidence at higher speeds on this thing. A lot of that can be attributed to the fact that the forks were replaced and increased up to the 39 millimeter, I believe is what they said. And you got the steering stabilizer on there as well. If you just took a regular 1985 stock FXR and threw it up on the freeway and started doing high speeds, you wouldn't have as much confidence in the bike, just with the smaller diameter forks and the fact that you'd probably have a little bit more of a shimmy in the front as well. But on this thing, I was able to get up there and open it up and do really well on the freeway and have plenty of confidence in the bike going these higher speeds. Alright guys, thanks a lot Nick for coming in and showing us the bike. And again, if there's any more people out there that have a bike that they just want to get highlighted, maybe it's a cool classic like this one is, or maybe it's something newer that has been all outfitted and stuff, bring it in, let's check it out.